What is going on, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Ronan Bell Show. With me today is Cheryl Murgia. I hope you guys enjoy the episode and can learn something, so let's just cut to it and cue that intro. Murg, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How you doing, Ronan?
No, same old, same old. I think I've said it at the start of every podcast that, I do the same thing over and over and over again because of the whole coronavirus thing. But, you get in a really good routine, as I said before. Yeah. So how's school going with the whole coronavirus pandemic? Are you guys having like in-person classes at all? I know it's really hard for especially the subject that you teach.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy. It's difficult because I have kids in school and they're learning all of my professional equipment like Premiere and the good new cameras. And my kids at home only have access to, most of the time, maybe a DSLR, usually just their cell phones. And then we're using WeVideo, which is a free app that's fairly functionable on the Chromebooks. But the bottom line is you can't even compare apples and oranges there. And I'm having to teach literally one thing to my face-to-face kids and something totally different to my virtual kids. And it can be absolutely insane. But, you just go with the flow.
Yeah,
Just is
no,
what it is.
yeah, no, I'm sure that like it's a whole different thing to adapt to, especially because I'm sure that you haven't used, the We app at all before this year, especially because I mean you've been working with Premiere for how long it's been out. Like that's what most people have learned to edit and everything on, especially in the broadcasting world. It's like the first thing that everyone gets into.
Right. It's industry standard. It's just what everybody uses. And to try to teach this class with something that basically, I mean, anybody can put onto their cell phone or to their iPad or whatever. It doesn't give them the same quality by a long shot. Now, the setup of the content can stay the same. You still have all of your basic rules of composition. And of course, telling the story is really what's most important. But you know what? Frankly, if you can't hear what your interview is about, then it's no good. And frankly, when you're trying to film with cell phones, you're not getting good audio. And so these kids, I feel bad for them. They're getting the basic concepts, but they're not being able to take it to the next level like I would expect them to be at this point. I would expect them to be up here. Even my lower level kids, I would expect to be up there.
Well, it's really interesting because, with this whole world of more people wanting to become like YouTubers or, podcasters, it's interesting because you start with
those are two different worlds. Those are two different worlds.
Yeah, but the point that I like to make is that the very bare minimum is what's being used for the start of most people. Like I didn't know this microphone that I use is $40. Like it's not top of the line standard.
It's still a good mic though. That's a good mic.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's a bang for the buck. But the point I'm trying to get to is like the you get to use in your class like the best equipment or some of the better equipment that is used in the industry. And when you get used to that kind of thing, you're like, oh, I mean, all my content's going to be this good of quality, right? But it's not like that when you're shooting on, your iPhone or whatever it may be. Or, some people might have flip phones and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how it all started, right?
I really don't think any of my kids have flip phones. I don't know that many flip phones shoot video. But you know what I got to tell you, my lower level kids. So, I have three levels. So I have my minors and then I have my major ones and my major two. So my minors, my lower level kids, those kids, they don't know yet what they're really missing. And unfortunately, their minds are wrapped around more of what a YouTube type of situation should look like. When in reality, things like jump cuts, you don't see jump cuts in normal film, and you certainly don't see it in news, any kind of ENG, any kind of news gathering of any kind. But in YouTube, it's really, really, really common. A lot of the YouTubers, they'll do the whole spiel, and then they probably don't even have any B-roll to cover those jump cuts and issues like that. So they just go ahead and leave those jump cuts in them, and it's become the norm for YouTubers, which, hey, I'm fine with that, but I don't want my kids to think that that's okay for the things that I want them to do. So it's a little bit of a game almost, trying to get them where I want them, but trying to be realistic. If their stuff gets turned in with watermarks, we video or whatever on it, then I just have to go with the flow. And, they're learning a lot, I think, but they're not, unfortunately, they're not allowed or not, they don't have the capabilities of actually getting their hands on the good stuff. And I'll tell you what, Spring Forward has really supplied us with the good stuff. We have top-notch equipment. We're far and above most high school programs.
Well, I wanted to ask you that question actually. How many other schools have this broadcasting, class or just club or whatever it may be at like the high school level?
Well, on the East Coast, there's actually quite a few. And on the West Coast, there's quite a few. And interestingly enough, Indiana is a hot spot for TV programs in high schools. I'm not exactly sure how that ever happened, but maybe it's the influence of being so close to Chicago, which is another one of the big markets. But the bottom line is most schools in this area do have at least some kind of TV station or some kind of video type program or club, but very few have the extensive, the leveling that we have and the quality of equipment that we have. And frankly, after teaching this for 20 years, I mean, I know what I'm doing. So they're getting good stuff from me. My kids go to college ready. And even if they're not going to go into film or TV or a news or anything like that, they're still able to see how media can be manipulative and things are said or edited in a certain way and presented in a certain way that can really be fake news and can really make you think that somebody really said this, but in reality, they said this. And it changes the entire context. So at least they learn that much. They learn not to be, snookered by what's going on TV.
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially because once you have like that basic knowledge, I know like the higher level classes go over things a little bit more in depth. They probably learn a little bit more. They go into deeper topics or more complicated scenarios or complicated editing, whatever it may be. But the general idea is for the lower level classes, you have to build a solid foundation, whatever, you're interested in. And the fact that it's broadcasting, like, so what, you don't go into, TV or whatever it may be, in this day and age, you are on a screen. I would say, especially with COVID now, you're on a screen 7 to 9 hours a day, whether it may be doing schoolwork, you're watching funny YouTube videos, whatever it may be. So just to be able to understand what they're doing a little bit better. I remember when we were watching just movies in the class and, picking up on like little things that happen into normal. Yeah. And you just kind of like look over it to like as a normal viewer. And then when like a little bit more, it's really interesting to see like even they mess up sometimes.
Everybody messes up, even some of the best quality shows out there, like The Walking Dead, which I think is fabulously shot. Even they have had one or two mistakes in their long career. There's always some kind of either a continuity error or it's in the case of The Walking Dead, there was a zombie drinking out of a water bottle. So right there, that's something that the average person doesn't pick up because they don't understand the concepts of rule of thirds. They don't understand that you're actually, when you're watching TV, you are entranced and naturally looking at 4 specific points on the screen. And any errors that fall outside those 4 points, well, you know what? A lot of editors just leave it in because they know the average person is not going to see it. Now, people like you, hopefully you got some of the continuity errors. I guess I did Back to the Future with you guys.
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple other movies too.
And the Forrest Gump clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's every movie, no matter the quality, it can be just a B movie or it can be, a top blockbuster movie. They all have problems. And it's because of the way TV and film has to be created. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. It has to happen. So
yeah, I'm sure.
Hopefully the kids are getting something out of it. So
yeah, no, and I'm sure that like a couple years ago or 10 years ago that this whole thing wasn't brought up and it was known by the industry and that's it. But now that you have more classes, I'm sure 20 years ago there wasn't a broadcasting class in high school, or there
Yes, there
wasn't
was. Mine.
21 years ago.
There you go. 21 years ago, there was not.
But yeah, they didn't have this, general knowledge of what was going on, and people weren't presented the idea. Another thing that I like would want to talk to you about is I think that broadcasting and this whole industry of video editing and everything that has kind of been more prevalent in the past 5, 6, 7 years, that more people are getting involved in it. And I just want to hear your take on why do you think that not necessarily your class, but broadcasting to be an important part of someone's knowledge going into, whatever it may be.
Well, there's a lot to be said for what we call visual literacy. And visual literacy can be as you need to be educated in how you're being manipulated visually. And it's not just TV and film, it's other things too. You're at the grocery store. Do you know that certain things are put right at eye level? Because that company has paid more money. And then like sugary cereals, for example, are lower for the little kids to be able to see them. Everything, there's all this visual literacy stuff that people, until they're made aware of it, they don't know they're being manipulated. And if you know you're being manipulated, then you can make better choices. The candy aisle in a grocery store, not even the candy aisle, but like the little aisles, the checkout lanes where you have candy on the sides, that's all impulse buying, and it's all about how it's visually set. And even the papers and stuff you get in the mail and the coupons and stuff, everything's visually treated to make you do or say or buy something. And so visual literacy, I mean, I hit on all that stuff, as well as, you need to, when you're looking at you're looking at the insurrection at the Capitol, you need to be able to learn to look outside of what the media wants you to look at. You need to be able to make yourself look and see in the background what's going on. And you often will get much more context to the actual event than just what the media is trying to show you. So, I mean, I am a media teacher, but I can definitely think that there's definitely some skewing of the facts in today's day and age. That people, they present things in a certain way for a certain audience, and people, young kids, well, high school kids, they need to be aware that they're being manipulated visually, and so that they can make better informed decisions. So
yeah, it happens everywhere too. Like you were saying, it happens in the grocery store. It happens like on the news. If I'm Fox News, I'm going to say one thing. If I'm CNBC, I'm going to say another thing. And that's where you don't really pick up on it until you actually know the facts, or you're old enough to realize that, hey, maybe there's something behind what they're doing. Because I remember learning in my marketing class last semester that, like you were saying, they put certain things in the grocery store, whatever store it may be, because that's the best place to put it. And that's the researchers' analysis of saying, hey, if you put this here, you will get more sales. And I was thinking, like, there's no way. But when you walk through the grocery store and having that knowledge, you're like, wow, that actually makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, it's the way of the world. Everything is about consumerism, and we as a visual society, I mean, everything is consumerism. Think about what, you're watching any video, and if you're not paying for the premium package, of course, you're getting commercials popped up. So those commercials, you can't even X out of them a lot of times anymore. You can't even, proceed to the next part of whatever you're watching. And all of that is very cleverly set up and marketed to the right person, all based on algorithms of your searches. Like if I'm watching a video, I'm not going to get an ad for diapers, because I don't search anything kid related anymore. My kid's almost 20, so that's not a thing for me anymore. But I'm certainly going to get lots of ads about anti-aging cream and hair dye and whatever else little old ladies they supposedly need. And so it's all a a game to get you to buy more.
Oh yeah, like 100%. I completely agree, and that's what the whole everything's an analysis nowadays. Everything can be broken down into numbers. And something I found really interesting that I was researching the other day is about ads on YouTube and how if you realize in the first 10 if the ads say 20 seconds, the first 10 seconds are the most interesting part. I'm like, well, that makes sense, but when you want it all to be interesting, you're like, why would I want that? I need 10 seconds and that way I get the viewers attention. I get everything, and they have a general idea of what my company is about. I brought their attention so they would be able to watch the next 10 seconds. And like it's the same thing with TikTok. If you're the whole way their algorithm works is if the first second you're doing something crazy or you yell at the screen, you have a higher chance of catching that viewer's attention and then they're going to watch the video or then it's going to be displayed in front of more people because they're interacting with it. It's all crazy to me how the age of the internet really brought that to light and people are starting to figure out the algorithms a little bit more and whatever they're doing.
Yep. Almost everybody's involved in the game anymore, and everybody from young kids to adults, they all want to be seen and have their 15 minutes of fame. And when you learn how to play the game, you do get 1 million hits on your TikTok video. It really is. There's a very set way to present any kind of content in order to retain your audience, because frankly, nowadays, especially nowadays, we have an attention span of like 4 seconds, maybe 5 seconds. If I don't see something immediately that engages me, I'm done. I'm gone. And so that's actually a really good lesson for my kids to learn too. When they're making a short movie or they're doing some kind of news package or whatever, you can't grab me at the beginning. There's no way I'm sticking around for the middle. So it's a good lesson learned.
And especially because like the more you learn about, the more educated you're going to be, the more informed decision you can make. So you're not scrolling through TikTok or you falling down a YouTube rabbit hole for 15 hours. But or something else that I wanted to touch on is the whole theme of broadcasting that I think people look over as if I think that broadcasting is another art form that people aren't really aware about. Some people are awful at drawing pictures. I'm one of those people that can't draw at all unless it's maybe like a picture of SpongeBob or something, because I've learned how to draw that. But besides the point, just the point where you can be so creative in the way you edit a video. Everyone has kind of a different style, a different type of video that they like to edit, different, if I'm going to put this together and this together. And I just think broadcasting is just a overlooked aspect of the whole creativity spectrum.
You know what? It really is an art form. It's based on the same principles of that sculpture and photography and watercolor painting. And it's all based on those composition concepts that every artist has to learn. And just because it's done in a visual or digital way doesn't make it any less artistic. If you watch a movie that does not have a very high production value, is not very artistic, you're going to know it as compared to something that grasps you right away, because there's a real art. Really, that's the word I want. There's a real art to filming and to editing to express what you want to say to your audience. And frankly, if you see a good movie, you should not at all be bored. You should not have your mind wandering off. You should not be looking for continuity errors and that kind of thing. You should be so involved in it because it's so well done. It's just like if I'm looking at a painting that I'm like, it's boring, I don't like it, I'm only gonna look at it for a couple seconds and then I'm gonna move on. But if it's a Picasso, I love anything Picasso. So if it's a Picasso, I'm gonna stare at it and I want to see the whole thing. I want to see every little bit. I'm gonna force my eyes outside that rule of thirds composition, and I'm going to look for every little thing that he tucked in there. and it just is going to make for an all over just more magical experience. So
Well,
it's
yeah,
definitely an art form.
yeah, no, that's interesting that you're saying. And these videos take hours upon hours to edit. It's not like I'm not talking about, David Dobrik's vlogs or something, but more or less, the V-roll shots and they put music behind it during the cuts and just all these different things, when you're making a music video, how the camera moves. There's all these different variables that go along and, get windled up inside your head, and you have to figure out what am I putting out here and what is this viewer going to realize. And then it truly takes as long as making like a piece of art. Movies take months upon months to make, just like a picture.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the people that come to me and say, hey, can you shoot me a 5-minute commercial for, X? And I'm like, sure, and I make plans with them to get together and start the pre-production and all that stuff. And then, 5 hours later, they're like, I thought we were going to long since been done this and we haven't even shot it yet. So people don't understand how much goes in. If you want a good commercial, I can throw you something together quickly and be done in an hour. But if you really want something that's going to keep your audience's attention, then you need to do it using high production values and all of the creative skills that you learn as a professional. You can't just slap something on the screen and expect people to look at it and keep looking at it. You can only expect people to look at the beginning, but you can't expect people to keep looking at it.
Yeah, they want to be interested enough to be engaged if I'm watching the Geico commercial, have it. And, after I watch, I'm like, maybe I need to switch my insurance or whatever. Like that's what they're trying to get you to do in the end. So if you watch that commercial all the way through, you have a higher chance of at least going onto the website and then clicking a couple buttons. And then before you know it, you signed up for a different insurance company. And that's the whole, and like we were saying before, it's what media has done. The longer you watch something, more interested you're in it, then you're going to move on to a different stage and you're going to keep I like my marketing professor putting it in perspective. I don't remember the exact terminology behind the word, but it's like Disney World, how after you ride a ride that they put you right into the gift shop. And it's like, it's like the portal, because after you ride the ride, then you're seeing all these things around you that go with the ride. And then you're like, maybe I need to buy this $25 Stitch stuffed animal that you really don't need.
Yeah.
And they put you in this mindset where like, maybe I'm going to make this impulse purchase because it's the first thing that you see when you walk out of that ride after spending however long the roller coaster may be. And you're targeted at these several different things that now, since you've done A and B, you have a higher chance of accomplishing C and D.
Right. Right. Absolutely. That's the way it goes. It's all about, getting them to buy. So,
It's a business.
I mean, we can keep talking about supermarkets and stuff. I have a thing about supermarkets and how they set up. I'm very savvy on all the stuff like the loss leaders and the end cap stuff. And, they leave the fresh stuffs at the back of the grocery store so that you have to walk through the candy aisle or walk through the cracker aisle. And most people cannot resist visual stimulation. If you've got the right packaging at the right color and the right design that's going to and put on the right part of the shelf, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I forgot I needed crackers, and I'm going to grab crackers when I only came in for milk. So
no, and that's really interesting. And the thing that I think is cool is that you are a broadcasting teacher, right? Like, why do I need to know about a grocery store? Why do I need to know
right.
about Disney World or anything?
It's all related. It's all related.
Yeah, and it all goes together, and they all intertwine into each other. Even if you don't realize it, because they don't want you to realize it. But this is
no, they don't. When you realize that you're being manipulated, then they've lost you. So same thing in a movie. As soon as you realize, as soon as you've lost your sense of disbelief, like you're supposed to be able to suspend belief when you're watching a movie. And as soon as they do something, either with a continuity error or a bad cut or something, if it knocks you out of that sort of fog you're in as you're watching, then they've lost you in the movie. And so high production value, real quality movies are crucial because they want you to watch the whole 2 hours. They want you to be engaged the entire time. And and yeah, and that. So,
Yeah, no, I completely understand. So, Merch, something else that I wanted to talk about was, why do you think that broadcasting is a good class for, people in high school to take, even if they don't have, like I was saying earlier, they don't have any interest of going into television or whatever it may be, editing videos.
well, I think we've answered that a little bit with talking about just visual literacy in general. But the bottom line is, for me, I think kids need to just have a class or two where they could just turn their brains off a little bit. My class is you when you move up through into the upper levels of my class can be very difficult. Um, you have to spend a lot of time and you have to work hard. But the minor is more just like opening your mind a little bit, letting you see what it's really like to shoot something professionally. And a lot of kids leave my class with uh, knowing that they're not going to be manipulated quite as easily, and with a whole new respect for how much time and effort a movie takes, or a stop motion takes, or even a short 30-second commercial. At least now they leave respecting that. And frankly, between all of those pieces, my class is a major asset for kids to just do something other than physics and chemistry and math and English and AP this and AP that. It gives them a little bit of a glimpse into the world that they live in, that they're engrossed in, and they're like submerged in, 24/7. At least they were able to recognize a little bit of what people are trying to pull over on them, essentially.
Yeah, because the past in before you get into high school, or even say, kindergarten through a 10th, 11th grade, you take the same 5, 6, 7 classes your entire life up to there. You go from math to English to history to science or whatever it may be. And now you get to explore these different ideas that maybe not have been presented to you before, which is the interesting part about high school. And, now I'm in college, obviously, and there's a whole bunch of different avenues to take. But I think that that's a good, I don't want to say brain break, because that's not what I'm looking for. It's more of to use a different part of your brain that you probably haven't done before. Like some people are not good at art. Like I was saying, I can't draw anything, but there's still other ways to use that creativity part inside your brain that you haven't just been presented yet. And that's what I think broadcasting can do for a lot of people, is that if they don't like something, and they think it's stupid or whatever it may be, don't say it's stupid yet. You got to just keep trying the different avenues until you make that right turn.
Right. Until you get exposed to something, you can't possibly know whether you're going to like it or not. And I've had some kids come in that have had absolutely no interest at all in broadcast, but they were like, "Oh, it looks like an easy minor, so I'm just going to throw it in there." And all of a sudden, 3 years later, they're in my upper level kids, and they're going to Temple for film because they didn't know they loved it until they started to get into it. So it's it's valuable in that it expands their brains a little bit more, opens them up to new ideas. I do like what you said about it does use the right side of the brain. It's much more creative. And I'm actually not a very creative person. I can't draw. I'm a pretty decent writer, but I definitely I can't draw. I can't paint. I can't sing. I don't play an instrument. But I'll tell you what, visually, it's my niche. I can catch a continuity error a mile away. It's just something that I've always been really, really good at. And I've always been interested in video and always been a photographer. So it's more everything I've always been really good at has been very visually oriented. So
Yeah, society deems these four things as artistic or creativity, and until you're brought to light with it and you realize, like, hey, maybe like this should be included in the creativity spectrum, because I can still, get the idea out of my head in just a different way instead of writing it on paper or whatever it may be. And that's what I think the whole technology spectrum, there's always the good and the bad to everything. The good part about it is it's bringing to light these people that are creative and were unable to find an outlet for that creativity until they were able to, find broadcasting or find graphic design, be able to use Adobe Illustrator, like all these different products that are now very prevalent in today's day and age. But before that, they just thought that whatever, I'm unable to draw, I'm not going to be an artist, or I hate writing, so I don't want to be an author, or whatever it may be. And now that you have this different avenue, people are going to start getting more interested, because I'm sure there's before, 20 or 21 years ago, that there was not nearly as many people going into the broadcasting profession.
Nope, not at all.
And that's the interesting part, because nowadays you're seeing all these people wanting to go into it. I want to be the next ESPN analyst or whatever. I mean, I want to be on the news and stuff like that. But before this was taken to light, that people were unable to really have that aspiration to go get something that they didn't even know about before.
Yep. I'll tell you, the creative side of it is really special, really important. But my class has also been a savior for some of my kids that are very math and science oriented, but not interested in math and science. So they're very detailed. They're very exacting and specific in what they do. Those kind of people make fabulous editors. And they make fabulous sound technicians. I have a former student who's been nominated for an Oscar for sound design on, I forget the name of his cartoon was, but it was a Disney cartoon. And so he was just a kid who was into music. He just was into music. He had no, when I first got him as a minor, there was no thoughts of like film coming down the street, I'm going to be a film director or whatever. But he loved music, and it was just, once he realized what he could do in the sound range of a film, he went off and on his own, and he's done really, really well. So you're right. There's a whole lot of creativity, but there's also a lot of technical skill for some of these jobs, and it can be really appealing to some of these kids that their minds think like math, but they don't actually want to do math.
Yeah, it's like incorporating like two things together that you didn't realize fit together until something starts going through your head in general. So Marge, question that I've been meaning to ask you for a while: if I am a guy not going to the movies, but I'm going on Amazon Prime, I'm looking up a movie, what 3 movies am I going to watch that you recommend?
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what, I pretty much, I've narrowed it down. I have 3 favorite movies. And this is my stock answer, my 3 favorite movies. But the bottom line is, I'm constantly telling my kids, oh, this is a Murgia must-see movie. Oh, this is a Murgia must-see movie. Because there's so much good stuff out there. So, but I'll give you my 3. Okay, my 3 are Breakfast Club, which everybody needs to see. I don't care how old you are. Everybody needs to see it. Well, once you turn to a teenager and older. And then I also absolutely love Deadpool. I think Deadpool is one of the best movies ever made. It has the most fabulous opening title sequence in the whole wide world. I just adore it. And then my other favorite movie is a psychological thriller called Identity with John Cusack. It's on the older side, but it's just fabulous. I love movies that make me think. I do not want someone to spoon feed me all the answers to what's going on. I want to actually be surprised or be thinking about it or be talking about it when I'm leaving the theater. If you can make me talk about a movie after I'm done watching it, if you make me want to talk about a movie after I'm done watching it, it's a good movie. So
yeah, they did their job.
Yeah. What are your top 3?
I mean, so to be honest, here we go. I'm really basic, and being a business guy, my number 1 all-time favorite movie is, of course, The Wolf of Wall Street. Because if you don't like The Wolf,
movie.
I mean, and Margaret Robbie's in it. Let's be honest, people. Come on, you can't beat that. Anyway, obviously, Wolf of Wall Street. Next, I probably ought to go Infinity War. Better than Endgame. Don't at me though. I just think it makes more sense. I don't know.
You won't get any argument from me. I'm not into that. So.
And then, man, number three. it's a kids movie, but Moana is actually
Really?
great a great movie. I don't know why I like it either. It's just like a Disney movie that I'm not a big cartoon guy either, unless it's like some anime like Naruto or Avatar, whatever it may be. But I really actually liked Moana, probably because like the rocks in it. Because I mean, how could you hate Dwayne Johnson? Like, come on. Like you got to be crazy. He's such a good guy. He's never done anything wrong, right?
I'll tell you what, I'm not an animation fan, but there's some really fabulous stuff out there, animated wise. But I can't say I've ever seen Moana. Um, well, anything past after my son got sort of outgrew the whole animated thing. I haven't seen too many animated movies, so I'm a little behind in that department. But there are some really good ones. But
Well, the reason I like them, I just like Moana. I like a couple other as well, like Finding Nemo. Is I just think it's cool to see how much technology has grown into making these people look like more realistic. Like the day you remember when I know that there's a couple movies and it's like all like The Nightmare Before Christmas, how it's all claymation, how long it takes them to make that. I remember we watched some kind of movie in your class that was all claymation. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, editing a 10-minute video must have been hell for them to
hours and
figure
hours
out.
and days and months and months and months of work. Stop motion drives people crazy. But if you're one of those detailed oriented people, then it might be your thing. I make my kids do stop motion every year. My minors just got done doing a stop motion. And I'll tell you, when they went into it, they were all just all over the place and all complaining and just, I can't, head's going to explode, blah, 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 blah. But they put out some pretty darn good stuff. Once they realized how to do it, some of them realized they had a real knack for it. So
Yeah,
stop motion.
I think that's what people like think about. Just getting off the topic of that is that people think that something's really hard and they don't want to do it, and then they do it and then they like it. Whether it be broadcasting, whether it be going to college, taking a class that you don't like, and then you end up liking. I've talked about it a lot. But like that's the thing, you got to explore these different avenues. I'm sure, like the word that I like to do, like to say is, get yourself uncomfortable. And that's what I'm sure that a lot of people loved making, the typical movie of them acting and stuff. And then they got the claymation. They were like, oh my God, this sucks. Like, I do not want to do this. And then they went and did it. And then you realize, and then they were like, oh, I mean, like, this was actually kind of fun. And that's why I think more people need to have an open mind about, like, if you think something's stupid, don't say it's stupid until you actually did it.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah, I wish more people would kind of have that open mindset and whatever it may be, and just explore different things instead of just saying that I don't like anything. I remember when I used to come home from school and my dad asked, "What'd you learn today?" And I would say, "Nothing." That's the
Nothing.
I hated saying that. I look back on it, I say I hate when I said that, because you did learn something. You just didn't realize that you did.
It seems to me you were a typical teenager. That's a typical teenager response.
Oh
Nothing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you've heard the story 15,000 times, right? Day in and day out. But Murg, something else that I want to touch on before we go on with our day is this world of broadcasting is new, and the internet is something that's newer. It's been invented. I'm newer. I want to say that it's prevalent in all of our lives. What do you think the number one thing that you would warn people about nowadays, besides the whole manipulation thing? What would you tell people out there to say, like, hey, maybe you should understand this about what's going on?
My mind immediately goes to, unfortunately for kids your age and people nowadays, everything you do is being recorded, everything is being watched, and everything is permanently out there. What? So, back in my day, I got away with a lot of stuff. I was, no angel, and I got away with a lot of stuff. And fortunately, it doesn't come back to haunt me, because there was nobody there running a video camera in my face. So nowadays kids, everybody, even adults, everybody, they get behind the screen and they say things that they would never say face to face. And they post things that they would never do, live in front of somebody. And it's just, and I hate the other thing that really bothers me is this, the culture that's now evolved when there's a car accident or a fight or something, people just stop and film instead of helping. I can't imagine my first thought being whipping out my phone so I can film. And I'm a TV teacher, but it still would not be my first thought. My first thought is to jump in and try to stop or fix or whatever needs to be done. But nowadays, I'm one of those people that love all those, like the dash cam vids and all that kind of stuff. I love that crazy thing. But it amazes me is how many car accidents I've seen where then cars keep driving. There's an accident, like a 4-car accident right smack in the middle of the highway, and people just keep driving. I can't imagine that, so I don't know. I probably just got on my soapbox a little bit, but you really need to be careful about what you post. And you can tell somebody over and over and over again, and until they actually make that mistake, they're probably not going to really learn the lesson.
Because everyone, like you were saying earlier, everyone's looking for that 15 minutes of fame. If I post a viral video, no matter what, even if I'm not in it, my account, blows up or whatever it may be. I get 15,000 Twitter followers. And that's the part of today's society that I do not like as well. Everyone's so attached to this thing called our phone and this capability. It's a blessing and a curse, right? Everyone has that. Everything that you ever do has a yin and yang most of the time. And that's where videography comes in. You can pull out your phone and you could track every single thing that you did in a day or whatever it may be. But the thing is, you don't realize what you're catching on camera most of the time. You don't know what that other person's going through. You don't know, like you were saying, like someone gets in a car accident and then you pull out your phone and you start recording. Like that makes 20 years ago, that wouldn't be an issue because no one would really care what to post because that's the first inclination that goes into a lot of people's minds nowadays. How can I become famous on the internet?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's the glorification of fame. It's the very glorification of, everyone can become famous on YouTube. Great opportunity. Again, the yin and yang. You have to understand both to understand the whole concept. The yang, I could become famous on the internet from one video. The yang, am I really helping society in this moment with what I'm doing, or am I just trying to do something for myself rather than the bigger purpose? And that's what I want people to understand more or less. But Murg, before we get going here, I'd like to ask all my viewer or my guests this: what is one piece of wisdom that you would like to pass on to the listeners out there?
Okay, so I thought long and hard about this because you had given me a heads up on this one, and I can't say that there's any major piece of wisdom that a particular person has passed down to me other than maybe like kindness and empathy for others, but that's not like a saying. But I've lived my whole life back as long as I can remember. My saying has been live and let live. And I truly believe that that's how we should be in this world, is live and let live. You do you and let everybody do them. And as long as nobody's getting hurt, then what's to complain about? Like, I don't understand why people have to get up in everybody else's business. And I don't care. I don't understand why people care about what other people do when it has no direct bearing on them. So live and let live. That is my philosophy.
Go do you. Don't let anyone tell you that you're messing up. Haters are going to hate. Throw on your, hater goggles or whatever it may be, and, go on with your day, brush it off your shoulder, get going to what you guys want to do. But that is a wrap for another episode of the Ronan Bell Show. Murg, thank you so much for coming on today. Is there anything that you would like to plug before, we go on with our night? Go take our class.
Absolutely nothing. Watch Ram Country Television. Yes. RCTV.
Go check out RCTV, or if you are
Subscribe.
in the college, if you're in the College or Springport area, guys. I love you guys for listening to this podcast. Hit that follow button. You don't have to like my YouTube video, whatever. That's so cliche. Get that out of here. I hate that I said that 15 times before this episode. But guys, have a great rest of your day. And as always, y'all keep on keeping on.